man.
All right, you are tuned into MMA Canada and very excited to be talking to an individual who is continuing on with the PFL 2025, a big season. We're doing the tournament a little differently here. This is a rematch and one I'm very intrigued by as someone who's covered the Bellator brand for quite a while. We're running it back with Adam Borics on June 12th, and we have Jeremy Kennedy as part of the MMA Canada experience today. How's it going, man?
Good man. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. I'm just curious to, get your thoughts on this fight because from what I recall during our last chat, you were almost referencing this fight as one that you wouldn't mind getting back, like just in the context of like someone you've previously fought would give you a chance to, you know, get one against them, as it were, quote unquote, just being that Borix got the unanimous decision win over you at Bellator 256. So like what are your thoughts on this matchup and everything? It would seem like an important one for you.
Yeah, man. This is one I'm actually wanting for 4 years now. Like I knew as soon as that fight ended. He's a young guy. We were both young at the time. At the top of the division in the Bellator rankings, like he was two, and I was, like we were on the top of the rankings then, and then we both came over to PFL, and I just been on my radar since that happened, and that was one of the fights I wanted to get back, just with how that fight went. I feel like I'm the better fighter. I'm sure he feels the same way. And I just the way I fought, it wasn't. I'm better than what I showed back then, and I just get to show improvements, and I know he's improved since then too. I just think I've closed the gap more so than he has. And like I said, man, this is just one I've been wanting back since the day it happened, 4 years ago. And ideally, it would have been cool to be in the finals, but fights went the way they did, and here we are in the ultimate position, fighting each other now. So I'm just happy I get a chance at this guy now.
Yeah, and that's kind of the mentality I would have presumed you would have had. Like, obviously, it would have been ideal to continue on in the tournament, but this would seem like one of the better outcomes, all factors considered.
June 12th, right before the last one, I was expecting to win and fight this date anyways. So when the fight went the way it did, I was kind of bummed that I wasn't going to continue on. And when they brought this to me, I was like, this is the second best case scenario. I get to continue on this active, busy schedule, and stay the course. And who knows, a lot of things can happen. I do my job, and there's four other fighters that can miss weight, can be injured, visa issues. Like there's tons of things. So to keep my name in the hat is more important as well. And now it's not just making weight, like getting a chance to get a fight, a full paycheck, and avenge a loss. And then worst case scenario, that fight doesn't happen, and I get pulled into the tournament. That's not worst case scenario. That's best case scenario. So it's all wins for me. I stay the course, I stay training, and I prepare for June 12th against Borics or Moblid again, or Kim or Pinedo or Braga or any of them. I'm just making sure I'm in good shape and ready to go and ready to get another fight under my belt June 12th.
It's such an exciting fight, man. And like I said, as someone who's covered not just your career, but the Bellator brand overall for a while, I mean, definitely a rematch that's been a while in the making, but another one of the big fights you had under the Bellator banner was against Aaron Pico and a big win secured there. But I thought I guess just
Yeah.
get your thoughts on the somewhat recent news that he's transferring over to the UFC in the context of, I guess, like, what do you think Aaron Pico's ceiling in the UFC's featherweight division? Like, what could it be, I suppose?
Yeah, I think that's an exciting signing for them, man. He's a fun fighter. He's young, got a lot of potential, and just another name to that division. Like right away when they were gonna put him with Mosvar, I thought that's an exciting fight. That's cool. Um, Again, Pitbull coming in. He's a little older now and near the end of his career. Would have been cooler a couple years ago, but you got Patchy Mix coming over. It's just kind of cool to see these guys against the like you just don't really see that pairing. I just think it's a good addition to the roster.
Yeah, well said. And you kind of mentioned the, inclusion of Patricio Pitbull into the UFC fold and how we might have, I guess, got like a better representation of his skills if he came over sooner. Like, I guess, what are your thoughts on, I guess, the nature of his debut and I guess even what he could potentially do under the UFC umbrella from here on out and everything?
Yeah, I mean, even when I fought him, like I think I got like the last best version of him. And then that was that was almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And so now I think he's got to be getting close to 37. Been fighting for a couple decades, a lot of miles on his body. And so I just think it's a tough time to be getting into the top. I think I got another see what he can do. I'm a fan. I like my division across all organizations. Well, I follow the Risen 145ers, and one championship, their division, and UFC. Like it's just they're like my coworkers, I guess. And so I kind of just scout, even if I have no interest in fighting them or no possibility of fighting them. I'm just interested in the 145 division. It's my favorite division, obviously, because I'm part of it. So I think adding these guys in, if they're not going to be happy in the PFL, send them over to the UFC and see what they can do there.
And just all the factors you've mentioned there and everything, I'd be really curious to get your thoughts on Alexander Volkanovski becoming the featherweight champion again, because he was the first fighter 35 or older to win gold between the flyweight and lightweight ranks, like specifically in the UFC. Like I know some other fighters have
Like,
accomplished that, like Demetrius Johnson and won, for instance, but all the same, like what were your thoughts on Alexander Volkanovski's performance at UFC 314 that saw him become the champion once again?
yeah, man, I think that was great. Like I trained with him for part of that camp out in Thailand. And I had a feeling he was going to win, and it was going to go very similar to that way. Stylistically, I think he's just a lot better than Lopes would, and a 5 round fighter. He's fought lots of 5 round fights. He knows how to fight them. He knows how to stick to a game plan. And that's kind of how the fight. And I'm just happy for him. I think the landscape of the division, he's still going to he's going to get there for a little bit. I think, you got Mosvar. Um, yeah, he's right in there with Taporia gone. That really like opens up the division again for a lot of these guys. So I'm curious to see how this whole thing plays out.
Yeah, and in terms of seeing how certain things play out, like the last time we were talking, that fight with the aforementioned Taporia and Islam Makhachev seemed somewhat on the table. Obviously, we've since come to know that Makhachev has now vacated the lightweight title and is going to be pursuing that Jack Della Maddalena fight for the welterweight title. Like, what are your thoughts on that matchup in terms of how you could foresee that playing out? Just, someone in Makhachev who you have that training history with, as well as Volkanovski, as you were talking about before.
Yeah, it all depends on the size. I think stylistically, if Makachev can get a hold of, Jack, it'll be a long night for him. But we've never seen Islam at 145. I mean, at 170. So it all really depends on how he fills out. But again, now you're getting a not depleted. I know he cuts a lot, and it's a lot of work for him to get to 55. So we might even see a better Islam Makhachev. There's just a lot of question marks on it for me, but I would favor him over Jack for sure.
Yeah, a lot of intriguing variables with that fight, as you mentioned, and everything. And it seemed like 314 was such a big night for your division, like that fight with Bryce Mitchell and John Silva, and you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
certain training connectivity and whatnot with, at least Mitchell. Like I saw you training with him at Extreme Couture in October last year. Like it really seems like
yeah.
that Fighting Nerds team is like really making a massive surge across multiple weight categories, and you strike me as a very analytical guy as well as what they're bringing to the table. So, like, what are your thoughts on, I guess, just the rise of that stable, like guys like Jean Silva, Kyle Bohalio, etc.?
Yeah, man, I think they're bursting on the scene. They're all really good. I think Rufi is probably the most like skilled, but they just have that aura with them right now. You know, they have a lot of confidence of how they're all winning and how they're winning. So I think yeah, I think it's an exciting factor of the MMA scene right now. Is like these fighting nerds burst onto the scene and now they're killing it. You know, so yeah, I'm interested in it.
And then kind of in line with what we've been talking about, just how, I guess, like aware you are of the featherweight scene and how studious you are in that regard. I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't get your thoughts on just some of the recent happenings with Jose Aldo, just considering, he lost to Ayman Zahabi at UFC 315, and it seems like he's looking to hang up the gloves, like maybe doesn't seem like he wants to continue competing. I guess, what are your thoughts on all those kind of components I'm outlining there?
Yeah, I mean, he looked good. He just kind of when you fight for that long, you've done it. There's not much more left to do. You know, I think he's just kind of had it. Um, I thought he won personally. First two rounds were him. He finished horribly, of course, and that always leaves an impact on the audience and the judges and whatnot. But yeah, I think he looked good for his age and his and the mileage on his body, and he's one of the all time greats at 45 and 35. You know, he's one of the best ever. So he's still one of my favorites to watch. Um, and I just think his time's done. He's done with the sport. He's done it all, man.
Yeah, well said. I had seen an interesting statistic where it said that the only guys outside of Zahabi to have beaten Aldo at featherweight because, well, I mean, you saw it was initially contracted at bantamweight and then changed to featherweight kind of the last minute. But like outside of Zahabi, the only other losses Aldo has had at featherweight are to Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, and Alexander Volkanovski. So I think that says something.
That's insane. Yeah, exactly. Like he's man, he's so good still. Even his losses weren't very like decisive bad losses to Batista and Marab even, and he's good, man.
And I guess that kind of creates an interesting question because like you've been in the sport for a good while now, but you still obviously have a lot more, to come in your career. But I guess in saying that, like, are there any moments in one's career where maybe certain motivations waver or you have to redirect the motivation or anything like that? Like, I guess I'm speaking to like the longevity components of fighters and stuff like that, like in the context of Aldo, kind of hanging up the gloves. And it seemed like it was part of the, I guess, like pressure that one would have in terms of being a high level fighter and sustaining that. So I guess in your own career journey, how have you gone about, I guess, like keeping that motivation alive and really having that like long term kind of like elongated focus to what you're doing, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I just think it's just what I love to do, and still hitting my stride. You know, I'm 32, and it's always keeps getting interesting. You know, Bellator, then right into the PFL and the tournament, and Bellator. There's the title fight, and it's been one thing after the other. Prior it was UFC, and then traveling with Brave. So it's just been a long journey that I'm improving physically and mentally in the cage as well. And so I feel like still hitting my stride, you know. And the last fight, I still think that was one of my better performances, and I just ready to keep building and keep going. And this is the one. I, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. There seems to be like a signal disruption on my end there. It's just, yeah, it's been a cool journey to follow since you fought at that charity event at Relate Church on 152nd Street back in the day, eh?
Yeah. Holy crap, man. That's forever ago. Exactly. See all around the world.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And I always love getting to talk to you before these different fights and stuff like that. And you did outline your time constraint before and stuff like that. So I do want to be mindful of what you're getting up to, Jeremy. I always appreciate the time, but I figured I'd give you the floor if there was anything you wanted to add as a final thought as we're kind of wrapping up here on MMA Canada.
No, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate always doing these with you every fight and following along in the journey. And I'm excited for this next one. Get to avenge a loss and keep myself in the running of this tournament as an alternate and hope hope there's an entrance for me back in and yeah, we can keep going with this thing and finish up the year strong.
Yeah, well, like you said, there's a lot going on with this June 12th fight, the rematch component with Borics. And like you said, who knows what could happen? You could, re-enter the tournament field, so many options. And that's what makes this a fun sport and a fun journey of yours to follow. But again, really appreciate the time, Jeremy. Thank you for coming on MMA Canada today and giving some great insights. And yeah, you have a good rest of your night, man. And I'll be checking out the fight when it goes down as well.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.